Hello, my name is Cameron Bodine, and I'm a PhD candidate in ecological informatics at Northern Arizona University. I'm pleased to present on a portion of my dissertation research focused on developing a software called PyMapper, which provides a mechanism to generate reproducible substrate maps from recreation-grade sonar systems. I'd like to recognize my co-authors, Drs. Dan Buscombe and Adam Kaiser, in addition to my other committee members, Drs. Toby Hawking and Rebecca Best. Today, I will first describe the motivation for my research. Then I will introduce PyMapper, the functionality provided in version 1.0 of the software, and the new functionality that will be released soon. Throughout, I will be showing initial results and will wrap up with concluding thoughts. I want to begin this talk by highlighting the significant impact investments in air and spaceborne instruments have provided in terms of mapping and characterizing the Earth's surface. These data products facilitate scientific inquiry important to a wide range of ecological applications. When it comes to aquatic systems, particularly freshwater systems, data sets at similar resolutions and spatial extents is severely lacking. This data gap hampers our ability to effectively model, study, and manage these aquatic habitats and species that reside there. So why is there a mismatch between data availability for terrestrial and atmospheric studies compared to aquatic environments? Because measuring and mapping these habitats everywhere is extremely difficult. Stream gauges provide temporally dense measurements of discharge, but are limited in their spatial coverage. Turbid water conditions or large depths limit visibility, impeding air and surface-based measurements. Traditional surveys are both spatially and temporally bound, and sophisticated survey-grade data acquisition is reserved for studies and organizations with the assets, expertise, and budget that is too often absent from conservation. In order to close this data gap, creative approaches, cost-effective technology, and open source software must be developed. In the mid-2000s, companies such as Humminbird, Lowrance, and Garmin introduced low-cost fish finders to the angling community, providing a way to see, target, and measure conditions beneath the water's surface. These units are easily installed on very small vessels where they can be used to locate deep holes, fish assemblages, and even structure. In 2010, Kaiser and Litz developed a method I call the snapshot approach to harness the ability of these units to image the benthic zone, which I will demonstrate in a simple simulation. In the bottom left, we see a snapshot, which is simply a screenshot from a Humminbird. When a snapshot is collected, the coordinates at the top of the image are also stored. As you navigate the river, a series of overlapping snapshots is collected. Using free tools developed by Kaiser and Litz, the snapshots are cropped and merged. GPS coordinates are used to calculate ground control points, allowing for the georectification of the sonar image, creating a geotiff mosaic of the benthic zone. Kaiser and Litz then used visual interpretation to identify different features and substrates in the sonar image. Polygons are then manually delineated around substrate patches, resulting in a seamless map of substrate distribution. This approach provides rapid imaging of the benthic zone with a straightforward data collection, an ability to map substrates everywhere, and the processing tools are freely available. Some issues with the approach include the potential for missing data. Mosaic creation is a manual process requiring ArcGIS. Sonar interpretation is non-trivial and requires manual delineation, resulting in slow map production. In 2017, my now advisor, Dan Buscombe, came out with an open source Python framework called PyHum. PyHum took advantage of the Hummingbird's capability of recording sonar data directly to file, removing the need to collect sonar data via snapshots. PyHum would automatically decode the file format and export GIS datasets such as sonar mosaics. In addition, it would also export so-called texture length scale maps, which is essentially a measure of benthic rugosity. All of this was accomplished with an automated workflow with minimal human interaction. PyHum eliminates the need for snapshots, instead decoding data stored in a recording file. The scripts are open source and housed in a public repository. Both processing mosaics and generating maps is automated and require minimal human interaction. However, underlying dependencies made the software difficult to install. The scripts also fail on unseen Humminbird models and firmware. The software was written in Python 2, resulting in poor computational efficiency, and it is unknown how texture maps relate to substrate. This leads me to the focus of this presentation and the motivation for my research. I am looking to answer the following questions related to substrate mapping with recreation-grade sonar systems. First, can an open source processing engine reliably post-process GIS datasets from recreation-grade side-scan sonar systems? Can deep learning algorithms automatically segment and classify benthic substrates from recreation-grade side-scan systems in an efficient and reproducible manner? The third and final question, which is not the focus of this presentation, pertains to the real-world application methods I'm developing. I'm investigating where Gulf sturgeon spawning substrates are located on the Pearl and Pascagoula River systems in Mississippi, how much is available, and when are these substrates accessible. Now let me show you how the first question has been addressed. In summer 2022, PyMapper version 1.0 was released with a companion manuscript published in AGU's Earth and Space Science. At present, it is only compatible with Humminbird sonar instruments. So what does it do? First, the software decodes the Humminbird sonar recording. Once the files are decoded, the ping attributes related to spatial positioning, depth, and others can be exported to file. These data are used in subsequent steps to spatially locating and correcting sonar imagery. The next step is reading the sonar returns to produce corrected imagery. Side-scan sonar images capture the water column with every ping. These portions of the image must be identified and removed using the sensor depth in order to generate spatially accurate sonar mosaics. The final step is georectifying the sonar image to produce mosaics using the positional information from the ping attributes. The sonar mosaic can then be loaded as a GIS layer to facilitate additional analysis. Since the release of this version of PyMapper, several advances have been made. I will share two of them with you today, the first of which is training and integrating neural network models for the purpose of segmenting and classifying substrates. Neural networks learn how to map inputs, in this case, sonar imagery, to the labeled outputs, which is the substrate classification. To generate this training set, I used a program called Doodler. Doodler is an interface for generating pixel-wise labels from images from sparse annotations. Let's take a look at the demonstration. First, you prepare the imagery that you want to generate labels for. I have found it best to generate imagery which roughly shares the same aspect ratio as the interface's window. Along the bottom in different color are the labels or classes that I am delineating. Each class which is present in the image is annotated with a scribble or a doodle for every location that it exists in the image. You will notice that I do not delineate boundaries between the classes, but instead doodle the general extent of a particular class. Once all classes are labeled, Doodler uses the annotations provided to first fit a multi-layer perceptron to make a pixel-wise prediction of each class. Then the class boundaries are further refined using the conditional random field, resulting in a labeled classification of all pixels in the image. Doodling the image is typically quite fast, taking only 10 to 20 seconds depending on how complex the scene is. It can take a longer time, up to a minute, for the final predicted label. But overall, this is a much quicker process for labeling an image compared to manually delineating polygons. With the training set in hand, neural networks can be trained to learn the image label mapping. Segmentation Gym is a pipeline for training deep learning models using existing training data sets, enabling rapid prototyping. Gym implements a variety of model architectures which have been shown to be suitable for segmenting Earth science imagery. Hyperparameters can be adjusted via a configuration file to help tune model training. During training, the model learns to extract features from the image that are then mapped to the classification. The predicted classes are compared to the label, losses computed, and model weights are updated. The iterative process continues until the loss between predicted output and label is minimized. Here are some example outputs from the automated substrate segmentation and classification. For each column of images, the ground truth is shown on the left and the model prediction is on the right. I see pretty good agreement between each image set. The model captures the distribution and correctly classifies most of the pixels. The overall model accuracy is approximately 78%. Common classes, such as rippled and duned fines, achieve a 90% accuracy rate. Increasing the size of the training set and adding more samples of rare classes will improve future model results. The substrate models have been integrated into PyMapper version 2.0, which will be released soon. Pixel-wise predictions are made on the raw pixel intensities stored in the Humminbird file and subsequently georectified using existing procedures in the software, resulting in a map of substrate distribution. A 10-kilometer reach can be mapped in a matter of minutes. It took a 12-core, 4-year-old desktop computer about a week to map substrates across 1,000 kilometers. Not too bad, I'd say. But how accurate are these maps? We will be finding that out this fall with a ground truthing campaign. In cooperation with Fish and Wildlife Service and the University of Southern Mississippi, we will visit random reaches to sample substrates in the field. Substrates will be sampled via dive, snorkel, wading, ponograph, or good old-fashioned pole. Field classifications will be compared to the subsequent maps to calculate the final accuracy. We have been looking at fine scales, but the importance of automated substrate mapping is highlighted when we examine them at a landscape level. In the map, we see the proportion of hard substrates across 1,000 kilometers of the Pearl and Pascagoula River, displayed as points and coded by size and color. We clearly see that in the upper reaches of these systems have the highest proportions of hard bottom, cobble and boulder, as we might expect in coastal plain rivers. I'll be examining these distributions as we search for reaches which might support Gulf sturgeon spawning. The second development that will be available in version 2.0 of the software is a correction to the Sonar backscatter. All the Sonar images we have seen today show the raw backscatter. Pixel intensities near the center are brighter than those at larger ranges due to the attenuation of sound, resulting in a non-normal distribution of intensities, as shown in the bottom plot. This variation makes the image difficult to interpret. This spring, I stumbled upon a correction called empirical gain normalization, which is available in SonarWiz. This correction helps to normalize the image by calculating the average pixel intensity for each range bin and dividing the raw backscatter by the associated average. Now we see a much more balanced image on the right in a normal distribution. The impact of the normalization is particularly noticeable when mosaicing overlapping transects. The image on the right shows the raw backscatter. The effects of attenuation are clearly visible in the oscillating signal. Once normalized, the mosaic on the left is easily interpretable, and fine details such as lines in the sand caused by boat skags can begin to be seen. Correcting the Sonar mosaics provides opportunity for refining classification labels and resulting models. A beta version of PyMapper version 2.0 will be released soon. Additional models will be added to the existing Humminbird module to extend functionality. In addition to correction of raw backscatter with EGN, 2 new features which I haven't highlighted today provide routines for automatically estimating depth at nadir for accurate water column removal, as well as sonar shadow detection and masking. Substrate models will be integrated as well, providing automated substrate prediction and GIS map generation. This new set of functionality will allow anyone to move from data collection to substrate maps in a fast, reproducible manner. In conclusion, I want to highlight the contributions of this research. PyMapper is an open source software that provides workflows for processing data sets from Humminbird recordings, automating substrate mapping, which can be applied to other systems in the future. New data sets provide the first complete picture of substrate distribution and benthic conditions on the Pearl and Pascagoula River systems. And finally, the maps facilitate locating suitable spawning reaches for Gulf sturgeon on these systems and others in the future. None of this work would have been possible without funding provided by the Open Ocean Restoration Area Trustee Implementation Group, as well as my collaborators at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, University of Southern Mississippi, and Mississippi State. Feel free to reach out at any time. You can follow the latest and greatest developments on Twitter and LinkedIn. Thank you for your time.